Here we go. Okay, so greetings, everybody. This is Jim Wickens from NFLDraftFanatics.com, and we are here today to talk about linemen, offensive linemen, in the 2024 draft. With me today are Dean and Broshmo, and I'll give them each a chance to introduce themselves and tell them how to find them. And Dean, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Kindig, TC Bills _Astro on Twitter, and I write for Buffalo Fan Base, and I prepare my own big board, which you can see over there, or use it on FanSpeak simulators. So this particular simulator I am really attracted to because of the crowdsourcing aspect of it. So I'm very interested in what Jim is doing here.
Fantastic. Broshmo.
Hey, I'm Broshmo. I'm just some guy on YouTube pushing out his football opinion, looking for good football discourse. I mainly cover the NFL draft, so I do a deep dive into a lot of these prospects, and that's what we're here to do today. So yeah, if you want to talk draft, then check me out on the YouTube. Can't give my government name out there, so Broshmo will have to do.
Okay, so I have a list of offensive linemen that 3 different analysts and one popular website have in their top 100. So the offensive lineman on the left, everybody has in their top 100. The offensive lineman on the right, not everybody agrees on. So those are the 2 columns. So what I want to do first is kind of go down the list that people agree on. And Dean, we'll start with you. Which of those players on the left do you see going in round 1?
Oh, that's a great question. I think you're going to see a lot of offensive tackles go in round 1 because this is a very deep tackle draft, as opposed to centers, let's say. So the ones that I see going in the first round are obviously Joe Alt, Control Alt Delete, we call him, Olu Fashanu, J.C. Latham, Graham Barton, Kingsley Suamataia of Brigham Young, and then right on the cusp with Talisi Fuaga.
Okay, and Broshmo, which of those players that Dean listed do you see as a right tackle versus left tackle?
Well, I mean, obviously with like Olu and Alt, I think it's kind of irrelevant. They're going to probably test out guys like Rashawn Slater or Penny Sewell, and they could probably play either or side. Talisa Fuaga, though, is going to be the interesting one. I think he's only played right tackle his whole career.
Yep.
Might be a guy you could even kick into guard early on. You talk about Armarius Mims, another guy who's mainly played, well, for the little bit he has played, unfortunately, right tackle. So a bit of a question mark, but he's got tools you think that can work on both sides. Same with J.C. Latham. But I'm actually a big Kingsley Suamataia guy, a guy that has played both sides, and I mean did so at Oregon and then did the last couple of years at BYU.
Okay. And were all the players that you just listed, do you think that they're likely round 1 candidates?
I think the ones that are probably guaranteed are Olu, Alt, Latham, and Mims. Like Mims is just so toolsy. It's even with the small sample size, he's just someone that O-lineman coaches are just going to salivate over. The next one in it's going to be a bit tricky. Like for me, I'm actually a big Jordan Morgan guy. A lot of people like Fuaga. Some people like Patrick Paul. I think it's good. We're going to see maybe 1 or 2 more go in the first. It's just who those 2 would be. Golly, man, good luck. But definitely, I think Mims, Latham, Olu, and Alt are first rounders for sure.
Okay. So changing subject a little bit. So in 2023, there were 43 offensive linemen taken in the 7 rounds. There were 15 taken in the first 3 rounds. The list on the left that's in bold, there's 16 players on that list. So without any viewer we don't want you to take betting advice from any of us. So Broshmo, if you had to go an over-under at 18 offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds, would you take the over or the under?
Offensive linemen in general. I think I would go with the under. I think this class is really talented, but there's also some significant injuries to some of those day 2 guys that might push them to day 3.
Can you talk about which players those are? And
oh yeah, definitely. So Armarius Mims had the ankle injury this year. He had the tightrope surgery, returned, and then he had another ankle injury in the SEC championship game. You have Zach Frazier, who I don't know if they actually said he broke his leg, but he's likely out for like the whole offseason process, which I mean, that was a guy that was guaranteed probably like midday 2, could end up getting pushed to maybe early day 3. So I mean, at that puts it at like 14 right there. Zach Zittner, another day 2 guy that probably falls out because of the injury. He's probably gonna have to redshirt his rookie season. So those are a few off the top of my head. I gotta let my dog in real quick.
The problem is, and I just shared a needs thing, is that the needs, if you look at every team and the needs that they have, offensive tackle, which are marked by 1s there. I don't know if you can see it very well or not. There are tons and tons of teams with a top need being an offensive tackle. I didn't break it down by right tackle, left tackle, but we can get into that. Look at the AFC. So 3 of the 4 teams, and you could even argue that Buffalo might be in the market, but it's a number 2 need for the Bills, for my Bills. And then 3 of the 4 in the next one there, 1s and 2s in the Baltimore, Cincy, Cleveland, Pittsburgh one. And then KC and Las Vegas people said it's a top priority, and nobody has them lower than 2 as a number 2 priority. So that it's going to be crazy how many. So I'm betting the over as far as offensive tackles go this year.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to my list. Thank you for sharing that, Dean. As far as, so Broshma, you had mentioned that there were some injuries to some of, let's say, the top prospects that might push them off of a day 2 grade. There were 2 players on the right. Okay, how do I say the last name of the person from Yale? Amagaji.
Oh, Godspeed. Good luck.
Amagaji. So, first of all, how often do we see a Yale player on a draft board, much less a possible day 2 pick?
Right. His arm length is in the 99th percentile. He does finish quite well. He is injured. He had a quad injury, so he didn't finish. So there's a thing, but 1 sack in 2 years. And we're talking about, like 697 snaps. And I've even listened to his group presentation on supernovas, so I think he's smart. So
maybe. Just maybe.
So it would be things. So you also, Jordan Morgan, I think you mentioned the knee injury, and that was last year, but
he had the ACL.
He's pretty high on PFF's list of linemen. Nobody seems to like Tyler Guyton, but he could go in that top 3 day or top 3 rounds as well.
Yeah. So the two players that are in green on the right, Broshmo, were players that you had listed, but not all three analysts had listed. So what can you tell us about Amagaji and Cohen that you
Well,
like?
with thank you, Gojo. I appreciate your input there. Amagachi is like, he reminds me a lot of like Braxton Jones when he was coming out of southern Utah. He's a cat that has the size, the frame, the length, the power, and the speed. Of course, that power and speed is going to look really good going against Ivy League schools. And like the big thing I think that would really help to elevate him would be that off draft, that off season process, right? Which sounds like he's not going to have that, unfortunately, but very enticing tools to where you're probably going to look at him even at the very least in that 3rd to 4th round area. And I mean, I feel like there's just such a drop off at tackle kind of in the mid day 2 to like early 3rd round range after like your like I would say Patrick Paul at specifically the tackle position, that you might be willing to take a shot on what you may consider like just a developmental project with just high end tools. So like that's gonna be really, he's gonna be really interesting. Really interesting. And then I'm a sucker for the Hurricanes. I'm a Hurricanes fan, but the cat Cohen coming out of Miami, he was formerly of Alabama, so you know this guy is built. He's athletic. He's got a good strong build, though sometimes can be a bit of a waist bender. It's more so that just the athleticism and the footwork, the technique he works with. He had a very good year this past year, and I think he probably would stand out. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl, and I think he's going to probably stand above guys like Christian, maybe a Christian Mahogany, who is more of this just like big boy energy, or Donovan Jackson, where you might have maybe concerns with the play strength and maybe less polished. I think Cohen's kind of like the in between of that, you know. So maybe teams that are more, or they're looking for that balance, will really like a Cohen in that day 2 range.
Yeah,
I like that you brought up the college bowl games and being able to, let's say, compare a player to somebody else at the same position who might be a different style of player. Is there anybody else, Broshmo, on this list where you think that going into the bowl season, the all-star games and the combine, where they could really move themselves up the board that's on this list?
Oh, Christian Haynes, I think could fly into like top 50 discussion. He's been that good for Connecticut for like 4 or 5 years. He could have came out last year and been a day 2 pick. Like I remember going back to his film, and it's like his only losses came against like back-to-back years against NC State, and another guy that honestly not getting a lot of love right now, but Davin Van. I don't know if he's decided to return or whatnot, but at NC State seems to be the only guy that was able to beat him in the last 2 seasons. So I think Haynes has a great opportunity to go to Senior Bowl, go to Mobile, show off his athleticism, his growth and technique. It's just been he's so much more polished than he was a couple of years ago. So he's one I'm very, very excited about.
I think the guy for me would be Matt Goncalves of Pittsburgh.
He had an injury too, though, right?
I believe so. The fact that he made all ACC as a junior, was on the preseason all ACC in 2023. I think the Bills have shown some interest in him, and that would be one to look at if he can compete in the after season bowl epics, and same with Blake Fisher. I think the only reason Blake Fisher didn't play left tackle was that Joe Alt was over there.
It's It's a good reason.
So that can kind of cramp your style.
It's a tough comparison.
I have a question. Is Patrick Paul of Houston even in the conversation in the first 3 rounds? The reason I asked it is that some say he's a little too tall. Some say he doesn't have the girth. Other people said that, well, he's got high upside because he has only been playing offensive side of the ball as a college guy, because in high school he was playing defensive tackle. But I like his hard work, his upside. I think that he had to go against Peyton Turner and Logan Hall in practice, so there's that.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, this year he was playing Big 12 talent. It's not like he was playing in the American Conference anymore, and he did well.
Yeah. I just don't know where to put him. That's my question. I actually am above Amagaji, but not. I don't know where to put him.
Yeah, and Bruce, you had even mentioned that Paul is kind of your over under as far as like there's a drop off after you get to your tackle list. If Paul is the last tackle on, let's say, day 2, that drop off, you said to the next tackle would be significant. You said earlier, right?
Yeah, because currently where I have it, I have when it comes to the tackles, I have Paul, and then I have Amagaji. Hopefully I said that right.
Yeah.
Just a big part of that is they have very similar tools, size, length, athleticism. With Paul, I think he just needs a lot more polish. Like his technique's kind of everywhere, from his footwork to his hand usage. He's an athletic guy, and I know people are going to criticize his height and whatnot, but like tall tackles, if they sink low enough, it's fine. They'll be able to win the leverage game consistent enough. So I'm not too worried about that, just seeing how like athletic he is. But that's kind of where, like, okay, I could take the guy that's already played better competition. He's played Power 5 competition this year rather than the guy who is just mollywopping these Ivy League schools.
Right.
Okay. Is there any player that's not listed here that any of you think could sneak into day 3 with a good combine, or any other factors where you think, you're keeping an eye on maybe a player at 120 that could move up, or a player at 150 in your boards that could move up?
Depends on what the people are looking for, what the teams are looking for. If they're looking for somebody like the Bills have a guy, Ryan Bates, who actually reminds me a lot of Jack Nelson at Wisconsin. He could play any of those interior positions and maybe tackle. In fact, he's currently starting left tackle there, and he's sort of the Cromer archetype. Our offensive line coach loves exactly that size guy. So that might be one. The other one's Anthony Belton. I don't know if anybody's mentioned that. NC State.
Okay.
I got him. I got him possibly because he's ACC. Brandon Bean will like him, and I think he could fluctuate between left tackle, right tackle, and not a lot of these teams have a good swing tackle.
Okay. Broshma, anybody else that you throw into that conversation that you think could be moving up into this list of day 1, day 2 offensive linemen?
I'm a big fan of Bo Limmer out of Arkansas. He played center this past year. And I don't know where he'll land in terms of like what bowl he'll be going to, because he really needs an opportunity. He was like a studded guard for a couple of seasons, and then they moved him to center to fill in. I think it was Ridgeway that was initially the center there for Arkansas, and it wasn't a bad year. I think he graded out as like the 3rd or 4th best center in the SEC. Still solid. It just wasn't, to like those levels, those heights. So he might end up being a guard only. I feel like he could probably play anywhere on the interior, but
Yeah.
like guard was just that sweet spot for him where he was just annihilating guys. He could erase people from existence. Uh, I,
Right.
I remember going back last season when I was doing my summer evals, and I opened with the Arkansas Cincinnati game, and I was actually watching what was it? The Cincinnati defensive interior, Corleone. Corleone. There we go, the Godfather.
Oh, yes.
And
Dante.
specifically because I wanted to see how he did against like Power Five, and he just got erased in that game. And I was like, oh, this wasn't a great first game to start, but I'm gonna have to check out this Bo Limmer guy, man. It's freaking phenomenal. So like, I don't know, strong showing in the off season in the All-Star circuit could really, really help elevate his stock.
Yes. And he's going to win the bench press.
Oh yeah.
So he can throw 600 pounds on the bench and 700 pounds on a squat. So he was Matt Miller's favorite IOL in September. I don't know what he thinks about him now. He could go early.
Yeah. I mean, he had a rough go at the beginning of the year making that transition because I think he only had one start prior at center going into the season. So he got much better as he eased into the role. So I don't think I'm too worried about it. But yeah,
Yep.
man, I totally think he could make an appearance in day 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, Sean McDermott is going to want a wrestler, and you've got two centers there, Will Putnam and Zach Frazier as centers that might appeal just to his wrestling mentality. So those are two to keep your eye on.
Dean, do you have a wrestling list? Like, do you have a player board of just players that wrestled?
I can just do a search of my notes and come up with all of them. That would be fun. I should do that.
Like, we need to add a wrestling event to the combine. I know the combine is supposed to be non-contact, but
oh man,
yeah, Sean McDermott will like wrestling.
That's right.
Just throw a pad in the middle of the field.
Why not? Why not?
Or just have Sean McDermott wrestle the players that he selects. So,
I mean, sure, they're basically already in singlets, so have them go at it.
Mm-hmm. You're already dressed for the part. You might as well do it.
Yeah.
So a couple of players who are on the right, and I know that Korey couldn't join us, but I believe Korey had Jonah Monheim, and I believe he has a second-round grade on him. Can either of you give the lowdown on Jonah Monheim from USC as far as like what you see his game and where he is on your respective boards?
Yeah. He had a top 340 time among all of the guards that are in this draft. He switched to right tackle this year. He'd be great in zone blocking systems. And he was the top Pac-12 offensive tackle in pass blocking last year. So he's practiced on the right side plus center, where I think his ideal position will be, and that's what he did in spring camp. So the versatility puts him on people's boards. His weight won't. He's a little light.
Yeah, it shows up on the tape for him. Like he struggles like with his anchor. He really has to rely on like recovering. He'll concede some ground, but fairly good at recovering at times. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Like the versatility is a huge thing with him.
Yeah.
And I have him in that like 3rd, 4th round area right now.
Okay. I've got him as the Bills' last pick, and that would be their nope, I'm wrong. Second to last. They have picked 200. So
okay. So that's a 6th rounder, Dean.
Yeah, that's a 6th rounder.
Okay.
Doesn't mean somebody else isn't going to like him, because there could be some zone blocking systems that are going to maybe snatch him up.
Just takes one.
It just takes one.
Okay, so I think we've hit on the Michigan guard and the Ohio State guard. So Zach Zinter, Donovan Jackson. We've touched on them, but not everybody agreed that they were top 100. Can you kind of define their games and like maybe what their upside or limitations are?
So Donovan Jackson, I think might get a look as a center because he's fast. He's Rick Saratella, the NFL draft Bible guy, says he has an elite combination of athleticism and play strength, and very, very on balance kind of guy. He liked the way he kept his hands in tight. Good explosiveness off the snap, and the Bills might be looking for a left guard, and I don't know how far down Donovan Jackson's going to go. I think at least third round, it'd be my guess. Again, he's not big, he's not tall, and most of the Bills are all 6'5", so it's like maybe that wipes him off the Bills list, but their starters are 6'5".
Okay. Broshmo, what's your assessment of Zinter and or Donovan Jackson?
Zinter's really nice. He has some probably some of the most dominating reps you'll see. I think there was something on the there was a highlight on the X, the Twitter, whatever we call it now, of him just manhandling one Penn State defender and then catching the other and just knocking him on his butt. Has some of the best awareness. I mean, the dude has great experience. The only some of the concerns with him was okay, he's really tall, 6'6", so is he going to be someone that can consistently get low and just get leverage, or is he going to be someone that's always going to be playing on his heels and just trying to stonewall a guy? I mean, I think the dude can work very nice in a phone booth. I think he's really good at that, even if he is working at that disadvantage. Donovan Jackson, freaking phenomenal athlete. I remember during his summer tape, I was watching. I saw he was going downfield with Paris Johnson, and I was like, oh, this must be who is this? Who is it? The other tackle can't be. That's DeJuan Jones. DeJuan Jones is 500 more pounds. That Donovan Jackson just going down the field, man, stride for stride. And I'm like, man, is this guy good enough to play a tackle? And I guess depending on his length, might not be the case, but yeah, no, man, he is a wonderful athlete that really grew this year. That Notre Dame game was pretty solid from him, and I think he's been pretty good throughout the remainder of the season. So, Zinter again, he would be day 2 if not for the injury. I think that might just dock him around. I don't think it'll be like Andrew Voorhees last year, where granted that was near the end of the process, but he goes from day 2 to 7th round. I don't think it'll do that to Zinter.
Yeah, sometimes right guards drop a little bit. The fact that Michigan has done so well up till now might be a good thing, and having his speed with his size, I think he's 322, something like that. That'll help. Not everybody wants a right guard, but the dude was a captain, and he. I'm always impressed by people who do plyometric training, and he can jump 33 inches high. I'm not sure what that means, but explosion factor is going to be off the charts at the combine. If he can be at the combine, that injury might preclude him. Who knows?
Okay. So if fully healthy, where would you compare Zach Zinter to Cooper Beebe?
Okay. Well, I've Zinter at 77. See, where do I have BB? I have BB at 64, so not terribly different.
Broshmo,
Yeah.
how do you see their games and their rankings if Zinter was completely healthy to BB?
Yeah, I'm about the same. Like Zinter, I think prior to the injury was hovering around like the 60s, 70s for me. BB, I'm just a little higher on. I feel like
Yeah.
it was another guy that could have came out last year. I mean, the dude was doing it at left tackle in the Big 12, no problem. Moves to left guard, just as good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked that like it seems like most of the draft community just isn't that high on BB. And I think it's just because his tapes gets boring, you know. It's like he's not really challenged. He does his thing, he shuts him down and calls it a day. Very much like just kind of that
Okay.
lunch pail, clock in, clock out.
Okay. So is there anybody else on this list, Broshmo, that you want to talk about that you don't think is getting enough attention just from our three-way discussion here?
Oh, it's Jackson Powers Johnson. He's a cat that I am so in love with. It would not shock me if he would sneak into the first round. He was that dominant this season at Oregon, and he was someone who coming into the year, I believe prior he was playing guard for the Ducks, moves to center and just utterly dominant, like moves grown men against their will. Not the most like light-footed athlete, but it's good enough for the NFL. It's like it's just not top tier, you know. It's fine, but man, like I don't think there's anyone in this class that bends defenders to their whim like Jackson Powers Johnson. I was just like flabbergasted watching his film.
I think I'd put him at right guard. I think that's where he plays in Oregon, but that's I think where he should play. That would be a good place. He was one of the comments that I heard was that he moves differently in space, and I think what they meant that way is he can get to that second level really, really well, but he can pass pro with the best of them. So I agree with you that it wouldn't shock me if he got into that Van Pran, Frazier, JPJ conversation.
Yeah, out in space, he's legitimately like a bull, and it's like all the defenders are wearing red. He is out there to
nasty boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else on the list needs some love before we move on and show off an interactive mock draft simulator?
Oh no, we got to do that.
Well, we got plenty of time, so it doesn't take long to show off how the simulator adjusts quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
I'm pretty content. I just wanted to talk about Powers for a second.
No worries. We have plenty of time. So anybody else on the list that needs some love?
I'll give you one. I think he's going to go on day 2 and no, he's going to go on early day 3. Johnny Cornelius. He actually plays at Oregon as well, and I thought he was the best tackle in the transfer portal. And he underplayed it, of course, because he was on the Rhode Island Rams. But one thing I was keeping track of is that the guy that recruited him to Oregon was Adrian Clem. He was just hired by the Patriots this year. So watch a Johnny Cornelius going to the Patriots. And I've got him at like 158, 150.
Okay. We will be doing other offensive line episodes to cover deeper into the draft card. But prior to the holidays and New Year's, this was the last position group. We haven't done quarterbacks or tight ends, but we've done top 100 at every other position group. So we'll definitely be able to give more players that are not in the top 100 some love. But I appreciate you bringing up
Yeah.
His name was Johnny Cornelius.
Yeah. Johnny,
Okay.
Ajani. Cornelius.
Okay. Thank you.
No, the left tackles are going to go. They're going to go really early, and by the time the Bills pick, the choice might be Graham Barton or Suamata Ia. And
right now Buffalo's picking way too early. They have to fix that.
Yeah, I agree. It'll improve.
Okay, so as part of the NFL DraftFanatics.com podcast, we like to show off at least a little piece of the simulator. So, Broshmo, if you haven't seen this, it came out last year, but it's better now. So this simulator adjusts to the players that somebody picks. So each time a fan does a mock draft, the board for that team is going to flip. So I was looking before the draft. There were 3 teams that needed guards and tackles. One was the Jets, one was the Saints, and I believe the third was the Packers, where they had guard and tackle listed. So I want to go to team needs, and I want to look at the New York Jets player board before I go and muck it up. So was somebody going to say something?
No. I was going to say we'll do some mucking up right now.
Yep. So so right now the Jets have 3 offensive linemen sitting at the top of their draft card.
Wild.
And people did that, right? Because that was not the board that was loaded. So those offensive tackles got put there because fans picked the players. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the list of players that we have. And specifically, if we look, I didn't see Fuega or Mims on that list. So if I go back and look at the Jets, I don't see Fuega or Mims. So what we're going to do is quickly change the Jets player board. And the way that we do that at NFL Draft Fanatics is we have this thing called the first round challenge. So what that's going to be is 5 unique first rounds to the Jets. So I say first round challenge. I have to go figure out the Jets are picking 6th. And it's going to do a mock draft simulation. We can look at the tackles. And here's Fuega. So I'll pick him.
Fuaga.
Okay. Yeah. I mispronounced. I'm sorry. So I pick Fuaga.
Will come after you.
Then I'll pick Olu this time. And then I'll pick Alt. Then I'll pick Latham. Now, granted, 3 of those guys were already at the top of the card, so I didn't change much. And then the last offensive tackle was Mims. So we'll take Mims. Okay. So by doing that first round challenge, so you can just see all the offensive tackles, got a couple different grades there. But if we now go back and we look at the Jets player board, at least 2 of those tackles moved up the draft board. There was already 3 at the top. So if you look now, there's 4 offensive tackles sitting at the top of the Jets
Mims,
player board.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a fan and you need to manipulate your team's draft card, you can quickly do a first round challenge. And the algorithm at NFLDraftFanatics.com, it's generally going to pick a player that's in the top 8. So it's programmed to look at the 8 players that are available at the time of the pick. It's going to pick usually the number 1 player, but the worst case is it's going to be a player that's 2 through 8. So if we think the Jets are going offensive line, you can use a first round challenge to quickly seed their board. And you can do this, and the board for the Jets is completely different than the board for any other team. So, for example, if we look, I think the Saints were another team that I said needed a tackle. The Saints player board is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this adds a significant amount of variety to the mock draft experience because each team has their own set of needs with their own player board and how they're looking at players. If a player isn't a scheme fit, don't draft them for the team, and they'll be further down the board.
All often. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to be able to show that off quickly. I don't need to do like any more mock draft. We'll do one mock draft. We'll do a draft here for the Saints. And we'll pay attention to who do the Jets pick when I draft for the Saints. So we'll do a 3-round draft for the Saints. So we'll do the Saints 3-round draft, keeping in mind that we just talked about offensive linemen. So we're going to be picking a few offensive linemen for the Saints.
Let's see who I've got.
Did it really? Did I not pick the Saints? Oh, okay. For a second there, it said like 256 before my turn. It's like, okay. So if we look, the Saints took a tackle. Now, I don't remember I think Latham was one of the 3 that was already at the top of the draft card for the Jets. So if we were to look here, Mims is the 6th overall player on the Saints draft card. Okay. And he is the 4th best player. And obviously it would be difficult to pass up Neighbors, but we're talking about offensive linemen, so I'm going to pick Mims.
Right.
Okay. It goes through, and they need a guard as well. So in round 2, which of these guards would be the appropriate value?
For second round?
For second round.
Man, well, if Cooper Beebe's still there, that's pretty good.
Right, because these is it Fontenot?
Fontenot, yeah.
Fontenot. Beebe and Fontenot are the 2 top guards in the class, correct?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say Fontenot.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to take Fontenot because he's 71st. And I want to prove something. So by me picking him, he won't be 71 anymore. Now, I don't know if he's going to 70. I don't know how high he's going to go, but he's not going to be 70 anymore.
Right.
Okay, and apparently the Saints don't have a 3rd round pick. So if we were to look at the Saints board, so Mims was the player I took. I believe he was 4th on the draft card at the time I took him. I think the number next to him was 4, and he moved up to 2.
Right.
And then what was his rank? I've already forgotten. It was like 80, wasn't it?
I think it was 71.
So 71. So he moved up 1 spot. So it's really easy to get somebody to move up in round 1. Just the way the algorithm and the draft value chart work. The draft value chart, we're basically looking at the difference between where the player is and what the value of the pick is. There's always a big difference in round 1. There's less of a difference rounds 2 through 7. So it can be a labor of love. But the more people that would pick that player in round 2, he is going to move up, and all the other players ranked above him will move down slightly. So the more people that agree with what I just did for the Saints means that the simulator is more likely to pick that player to the Saints if Dean were to go do a mock draft for Buffalo, for example.
Right.
Broshmo, do you have a favorite team that you
Dolphins, unfortunately.
No worries. Like we could go in and we could do, for example, like a 3-round mock for Miami. You could see what their player board is, and every mock is going to adjust what that player board is if you're interested in checking that out.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Okay.
Do it. Yeah.
And I believe Miami traded away does Miami have a third?
No, we only got first and a second.
Okay. So we're going to do a 2-round Miami draft. So what do you think Miami's needs are, Broshma?
Offensive line, so like left tackle,
Yep.
interior in general, because good chance we can't pay Robert Hunt, unfortunately. So that's kind of like, for me, I think that's the primary need for the Dolphins.
And maybe interior just defensive lineman, maybe a tight end.
Could be yeah. I was like thinking offensive, but interior, like we could lose Christian Wilkins this offseason as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So Latham went to the Jets again, and the Saints didn't agree with my selection of an offensive tackle. Okay, so the board right now for Miami, I don't know how well you can read that. Do I need to zoom in, or can you see it?
So
Good,
Brian Thomas Jr., Damian Robinson, Cooper DeJean, Tui Molawau, and Jordan Morgan, and Kalen King, the cornerback.
Yep. And these are the tackles that are available. And I believe at this point, Miami's picking 31. Because at the time I programmed the draft order, Miami had the best record in the AFC.
Right.
I haven't updated the draft order in about
Things hit the fan on Monday.
Yeah. So is there a player you like here in round 1? Broshmo?
Like in all honesty, I'd be willing to take like a Jackson Powers Johnson in the first. Especially with like Connor Williams, he's had I think he's now out for the year with the ACL. So like center's kind of this like big need. We threw Liam Eichenberg there, and it didn't go well.
There you go.
Well.
This will be very instructive because he's taking a player that currently is 173. But I agree, he should be much higher than that. So let's draft him.
Yeah, so we're going to see some magic here. This is Broshmo, you walked right into it, right? So player at 173, we're taking him in round 1. When we go back and look, he's going to be significantly higher than 173. Significantly higher.
Nice.
So
we'll remember 173.
Yes. Okay, and what do you like in round 2?
So now you got your center.
Yeah, round 2, I always like to look if Xavier Worthy's on the board because speed kills, right? So I like to at least look. I don't assume that he's there. He's normally not.
No. Xavier Legette's pretty fast.
Yeah, Legette's pretty darn fast. And he brings that size. It's nice shift of flavor there offensively.
Okay.
Maybe a quick look at the defensive interior. Just out of curiosity.
DLs.
Yeah, okay. I'd probably go Legette then. Like I'm a big fan of Legette.
He's 61 on the draft card right now.
Great. This is great.
Oh, right.
Okay. So here's the reason for the grade. So first of all, Broshmo, my mother will tell you I am not a straight A student. She'll be the first to tell you. So if you pick a player from 1 to 8, you get an A. So if he's 1 to 8 on the draft card, it's an A. If it's 9 to 16, you get a B. If it's 17 to 32, you get a C. And if it's 33 and greater, you get a D. Okay. So the player Powers Johnson was like 173, so he was going to be a D. There are no Fs. So he was the more people that agree with this pick, the next person that does it is probably getting a C or a B.
It'll
so if
just
we were to do that again, the grade will improve because he's higher on the draft card.
It's a different score so I wouldn't worry about them yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go look at the Miami player board. And I believe the players that we picked were 173 and
61.
61, thank you.
Really?
I'm refreshing the page. We'll do that one more time. He stayed there. Okay, I'm going to try that one more time.
I get it. You hate him.
Yeah, it's only with Miami, right? It's only because of Miami.
Okay.
No,
the wide receiver's not there this time.
Oh, AD Mitchell ain't a bad option though.
Okay. Make that simple. Okay. So now I want to go back and check the player board. And if it still didn't work, then I'm talking with my developer.
No,
the developer is not me, but they're in Austria, so they're already asleep. But
broke the system.
So I'm really curious. So I'm going to try one thing here. So we're going to do a first round challenge for Miami. I'm going to see if I can get them to move. But now you're seeing me debug what I've designed.
Why here?
So 5 first round picks for Miami.
All the same guy, Jackson Powers.
All
right.
Yep. We'll go. Actually, Flogger could go in round 1. Mims can go in round 1. You said you like Worthy, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll finish it out with Jared Verse. Okay. So I did that. Now I'm going to go back and check Miami's board again. It shouldn't matter whether I do a first round challenge or just do a regular mock draft and pick somebody in the first round. The algorithm is going to be the same.
Center, yeah.
Hasn't moved. Okay. I have to go figure that out. Okay. I have something to work on. That's the first time I've seen it not move the player. So I'm not sure what happened. So I'll have to go figure that out.
Jackson Powers Johnson broke the system. He's out of the simulation.
Yep. Because we saw it work for the Jets. We saw it work for the Saints. And we go to the Dolphins. And okay. So I got to go figure that out.
A lot of things don't work in Miami that we're supposed to, unfortunately.
Well, we are at the end of our hour. So I do want to thank anybody that has watched or listened to this. Please like and subscribe to the NFL Draft Fanatics channel. And Broshmo, any parting words?
Yeah. Hey, if you like draft content, check out Broshmo. I talk draft almost all year round. Right after this draft, I'll be immediately working on the next with my summer watch list and whatnot. So if you want to check that out, then hey, you know where to find me on Bro Schmo, the most professional sounding name in sports entertainment.
Dean, any parting words?
I think you really have something here, because crowdsourcing is happening in everything else. So as long as people use it, it's going to give different flavor to simulations in general. I love the fact that you're doing that, and love to have people follow me so I can follow more scouts. One of the things that I do a lot of is scout which players scouts are looking at, and especially for the Bills, but also for draft in general. Who's getting the love and who's not, type of thing. So I'd love a follow on Twitter.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
So I appreciate everybody. And again, the design of the simulator, to Dean's point, was to be more random. I always dislike when I used other mock draft simulators, and by the time I did my 5th or 10th mock draft, I could pretty much predict what the first 2 rounds were going to be. At NFLDraftFanatics.com, that's not going to happen, because the boards are going to flip every single time somebody does a mock draft, unless it's Miami today. But every other time, the boards will flip, and that's going to change what the result is. And that makes it more random. And that was my design concept going in.
Yeah.
So,
and that makes it more fun. So it'll be like, yeah.
Like if you're doing like 5 or 10 mock drafts a day, just do one on our site and check it out.
Thanks.
I mean, hey, the draft is random as hell. So
yeah, and there's no way I think anybody could have predicted the first 10 picks last year.
Yeah.
Right. There was no simulator that was going to manage what you may have gotten the players right, but you definitely wouldn't have gotten which teams they went to.
That's right.
Absolutely not.
Well, happy holidays, Jim, and Broshmo. We'll see you over on YouTube.
Yeah. Thank you both. Appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.